What a wonderful day today is. And you know, it's like my favorite time of year. And it's the Christmas time is really a time which I think is a God-given parenthesis around life. If you treat it right, it's a way to commemorate and celebrate the new beginning and the life and the joy that you have access to all year long. You don't have to wait till Christmas. You know, we sing Joy to the World. That hymn, that joy to the world. I found out it wasn't a regular hymn that got attached to Christmas. He just basically wrote it for the fact that you can have joy to the world. The Lord has come. Let earth receive its King. Every day should be a day of joy. Now, I'm going to talk about a subject today which is imperative. I feel like the Lord is burdening me to cover this, but I'm going to tell you a little story. Bob Mumford said once, I listened to him, he said, "Do you want to know what God's saying to you? You want to know what God's saying to you? Get your Bible, open it up, and look at all the verses you haven't highlighted or underlined." That's what God's saying. And what he's saying is that we all have a tendency to go to our favorite revelation, our favorite subjects, our favorite themes, but what God's talking about might be the thing you're not looking at. When your health goes south, God was talking to you about your lifestyle. You just weren't listening. When your finances hit the skids, God was talking to you about wisdom and preparing for the future. You just weren't listening. Those weren't the things you wanted to hear about. Today, I'm going to warn you and edify and encourage you on what's coming in the economic shaking in the United States. We're going to talk with my cousin Billy. We got Mercedes here, and we are creating a fine-tuned strategy, literally a dashboard for each one of you, so that you that have no money and go, "Well, I don't want to talk about God." Nothing. Well, you need to have knowledge and wisdom because God's going to give you an opportunity to get out of vulnerability into having resources. And if you've got something, you need to protect it. And if you have a wisdom, you're going to multiply whatever you've got, because this is a time when wisdom is going to be profitable to direct God's people. Don't tune this out, because we're going to talk about things you don't normally talk about, but acquire a taste. John Wesley once was asked by one of his preachers, he said, "Reverend Wesley, I don't particularly like reading, and you want us to read a lot." Wesley said to him, "Sir, acquire a taste for reading or return to your profession. I don't need you as a preacher if you're not going to be literate." So what I want you to do is develop and increase your financial literacy. You're going to do it right now by going to lancewallnau.com/stormproof. Lance Wallnau, WALLNAU.com/stormproof, because we're going to be looking at this powerful stormproof guide you're going to download. When you go to that website, you're going to download the survival guide. And now I want to bring on Cousin Billy and Mercedes, and let's dive into the subject you want to talk about right now and prepare for the future. Welcome, and this is a special Christmas week broadcast. You know, it's Friday. Isn't that right, Mercedes?
It is Friday, Lance.
It's Friday, and you know what? If you haven't done your shopping by now, you're going to need to pay attention to this broadcast because we're going to talk to you about how to prepare for the next year. And look, I'm in the same boat with you. I'm going out today, and I'm going to take care of a couple of last-minute details because I have a problem making decisions on sometimes what people, you know.
Well, tell them what happened the last couple of years. It's really funny.
Well, go ahead. What happened?
No, I was going to let you. You're a much better storyteller.
Well, what are you talking about?
Last year, you went crazy with the My Pillow.
I did.
Everybody got My Pillow.
Everybody got Mike's slippers. They got bathrobes. I was helping Mike out and helping and they didn't arrive on time. So I had this tons of stuff showing up at my house after Christmas.
Everybody got a robe.
Everybody got robes.
But what was weird is you only ordered one size of slippers, so everybody had size 8 slippers.
Exactly, and that was a problem. But I don't want to go there now. I want to go to my cousins on the phone right now. I want to talk to you about, this is probably one of the toughest calls you got to make, is what's going to happen in the future financially. You know, you can listen to prophets and prophecies and predictions, but I'll tell you what, the people that come closest to earning my respect in the secular world are the financial advisors, because, you know, unlike a lot of prophetic, at the end of the year, they have to own what they said. And like I'm reading Tom's newsletter that we do. I just got it today, the Wealth Advisor, right?
Yeah.
And I read these different studies, and he says, hey, we got some stuff wrong, but we got most of it right. And the truth is we underestimated this. But you see, there's a self-correction when you're measuring specifics and are accountable for outcomes. And when you're really good, you only have to make a certain, it's like one guy said to me, he said, hey, I only got to be right 51% of the time because that 1% is where I'm making all my money. And these are guys that are in the stock market. But Cousin Billy's right a heck of a lot more than that. I want to bring him into the conversation because for years I've been tracking Billy Epperhart, and we're like family at this point in time. Cousin, welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show.
Hey, cousin, I'm glad to be with you guys today.
And I know you're at home, and I called you up, and you found out today that you weren't going to have your day off like you thought. You had to go to work. So thank you for letting me invade your private life now. Just letting the audience know. This is when it pays to have Cousin Billy accessible on speed dial. But we wanted to talk to you about you're doing an analysis this week. In fact, you've done already by this point. You've done a broadcast. I want you to share with our audience, who probably many of them did not get to hear it, what your perspective is on the coming year in terms of what you see. What's happening right now with the Fed raising rates. For folks at home, that means that, they're tightening that monetary supply. That's going to cause the inflation, I guess, is going to have an impact, but it's also going to have an impact on a lot of other areas. So share with us what it is that you see that we should be looking at closely in the next year while we're stewarding what God gave us and positioning ourselves, hopefully, to grow.
Well, I think that 2023 is going to be the year that we actually see the effects of what the Fed has been doing. As they've raised these rates, it's been really 75 basis points. That's 3/4 of a point in percent. So they've been doing that in every raise until this very last one. And they did 50 basis points, which is basically 0.5%. But what has happened to us is that it has brought us basically from 0% interest rates, right, to now we're getting in that 5% range, 4.5% to 5% range, which means when you start looking at mortgage rates, even though that mortgage market is kind of responding a little bit odd right now, but it's going to settle out, and we're going to be getting in that 7 to 8% range. Wow. And it could be, if the Fed continues, we're going to be getting, it's possible we could actually hit 9% at the mortgage level, which is going to completely stop the market. And I'm convinced in 2023 that we're going to see the stock market, which has been trying to hover in that what we call the 4,000 range on the S&P 500. It'll go down, then it'll come back up. We'll have some bear rallies in there. But what I think is really going to happen is we're going to lose 20% in the S&P 500 and the stock market as a whole. That's the Dow. That I think the Russell 2000, which is the small cap stocks, those can go down even more. But the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ has already been down about 25%. So if those numbers actually come to us and we see the S&P get around 3,400, I think what's going to happen is we're going to be in the middle of a recession that is going to require some time for us to pull ourselves out of. And really the Fed is doing that intentionally because they know the hardest thing to stop is runaway inflation. And so they're more concerned about inflation being run away, in other words, where they can't catch it. And so what they've been doing now, inflation came down, right? This very last inflation report just a couple of weeks ago was in that high 7% range, the mid 7% range, depending on what you were looking at. And that's less than what we were seeing at 8% and above per month. And so because of that, there's a little positive news. So they lowered what they were doing to raise rates down to 50 basis points. But the effect of all of that, we're going to start feeling that in 2023.
So we know it's going to, for those folks that are in the housing market, it's one thing. But what about renters? Is that going to cause rent to go up for people renting?
You know, what's interesting is we have some markets where rent has come down some. But the truth is, anytime that interest rates go up and inflation is in the market, rents always tick up with that. That means that they actually will follow. They'll be behind a little bit, but they will always follow inflation up. So even when, for example, housing goes down because we're raising interest rates, right, to soften inflation. So when housing is going up, and like it is now, and then all of a sudden, meaning like it did in 2022 until we hit this 21 into 22, then housing comes down like it's been doing recently. Rents will go up almost to the same exact level that housing is going down, because here's why: people need a place to live. And so people, you know, if you just think about it from just pure economics, people can't afford to purchase a home because of the high interest rates. So what are they going to do? They're going to rent. And with these interest rates going up like they have, it's actually cheaper now for someone to rent, in other words, in a similar type of property, than it is for them to make the house payment. Whereas before, with those low interest rates, they could get a 30-year mortgage and basically save money on what they would have to pay in rent.
Well, you work on a couple of different areas, Cousin. You work on the real estate market, of course, and that's one of your fortes. It looks to me like that's going to be about a year or so, 6 months to a year. There might be some opportunities there. You agree with that?
I do. As a matter of fact, I've said this before, but I haven't borrowed money in 20 years, and I'm probably going to borrow some money in coming into these next probably 6, 12, 18 months. And I'm going to target some very specific markets to do that. And I'm going to target specific kinds of properties in order to take what I think is the greatest advantage. And so I think that's where we're headed. And so, in other words, there is going to be opportunity. There's going to be some tremendous drops. And let me just say this. When the economics are the economics, but sometimes the psychology of what people are thinking has not matched what the facts are about the economics. Yeah. So what I'm watching for is when the psychology starts that herd mentality starts matching what the economy is already telling us, then that will be the time to buy, because it'll be at that time that there will be a rollover in the psychology, for example, specifically in housing. Same thing will happen in the stock market, very similar. The psychology of it has to change. And when it does, then that's a great time to take opportunity or take advantage of the opportunity in order to really make some money.
Yeah, because I think these things can sound really kind of scary when you think about the financial storm that is actually coming. But the other side of that coin is this could be, and is probably one of the largest opportunities for a wealth transfer if you are aligned correctly. So I mean, Billy, when you're talking about the stock market dropping another, 20, 30%, I heard somebody say the other day that Alibaba's stock price is currently at what it IPO'd at. And so if these are going to continue to fall, this is the time. If you have money that's sitting in cash, if you have money that you've been thinking about, well, should I start investing? That's one of the reasons that we have Billy on and we bring Chad on, because you guys have an entire organization dedicated. It's called Wealth Builders Investments, and they help people across the board. It's not like, because I know sometimes we get in the comments or it's like, oh, this is a financial day, but we literally bring these broadcasts to you because we want you to be prepared. I don't want anybody to miss this boat. And like Lance famously, I love this, one of your favorite quotes that I have, but in the midst of the storm, God gave Noah a plan for a boat that would float. And that to me is is what you and Chad do. You help people figure out what is the financial arc that's going to carry me through the next, I don't think it's a year, Billy. I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think it's longer than a year. I think we're looking at this recession going into 2024. Depending on what happens with interest rates, it may actually stretch into 2025. I've heard a lot of tech company, I listened to a couple different podcasts, that they have to be conservative and they're planning for 2025. They have to have cash on hand and they want to be able to show growth. Exactly. So anyways, I just wanted you to comment on that because I don't want to miss sight of that. I know we have Karen on that helps us with real estate, but I am burdened for people who have even just a little bit of money. You got 5, 10,000, 20,000, maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck. You also need a strategy. And so that's what I think you guys are so great at. That's why we love Cousin, because he teaches you how to do all these things.
Well, not to mention, I always want to say, Cousin's got some projects. He got stuff that he's doing. People don't know that he's got, he's playing multiple layers of chess over there. And so like I remember one time I heard this guy say, a new broom sweeps clean, but the old broom knows where to sweep. Cousin knows where to sweep. And so, he looks around the world. I mean, he's not just in the United States. Well, I'm telling you, you know where to sweep, brother. You and I know where to sweep at this age. And so there's opportunities sometimes in sectors people totally miss. We're looking at stocks, business ownership. I was surprised to hear you guys just sold out like a business course, training course, coaching over there in the UK. And that's important for folks to know because one of the ways, I got friends of mine that are doing startups. You say, well, now's a terrible time to go into business. Well, it depends on what business you go into. And if you got the right psychology, you might be creating a business that's going to really bounce because of the effect of the economy in other places. There's strategies for certainly gold, silver, stocks, bonds, and tax strategy, because money you're not spending is money you're putting to work in an investment. Stop and think about it. Nowadays, with a 50% tax rate, if you walked out of the parking lot every day you leave your office, and some crack addict comes up and demands 50% of your wallet and you give it over to him, well, the government basically is holding a gun to your head every year and saying, I want 1/2 of your wallet. People don't realize that when they hear these spending bills and bailing out the students, and it all sounds good, but the government's going to shake you down in the parking lot with a gun to your head saying, I want 1/2, I want even more of what you got.
Yeah.
That's something, if you could save money there, it's still money, right, brother?
No, I'm telling you, the truth is people have no idea how much, especially even now here in the U.S., that we have to pay in taxes. However, there are available strategies where people can actually save on the taxes that they have. And a lot of young people and people who work for us and middle-aged people don't really realize that they're actually paying up to 50% of their actual checks that they receive in taxes. So by the time you count your income tax, and then you count sales tax, and then you count gasoline tax, and you start counting all the taxes that you're actually paying with the dollars that you spend, you'll find that your purchasing power is you're only getting the goods and services for what you spend $1, right? You're actually sometimes only getting through that 50% bang for your buck because of how much you're paying in taxes. So anytime you're building wealth, you have to develop a tax strategy around how you do that. Now, you want to do it legally. You want to do it ethically, but there are good tax strategies that you can use. You can combine strategies to come up with something that best serves you. So it's a combination of knowing how to build wealth, how to invest, and really right now, the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the righteous. So the greatest wealth transfers happen, cousin, in these times that we're coming into right now. And so we need to get ready and we need to get prepared to be able to take advantage of the opportunities.
I want to jump in.
And how are we going to do it?
That's what I want to say. I want to make sure we get everything in there because, like I said, we want you to be prepared. And in the midst of the financial storm, you need a plan. for a boat that will float. And so what we asked Billy and Chad, you've seen Chad on Fridays as well, to put together, it's literally called the Financial Survival Guide. This is your guide for 2023 and 2024, and you need to go and make sure that you get it. It's going to be lancewallnau.com/stormproof is what you're going to need to go and get to get this guide and to make sure that you take action and that you're prepared for the storm that's coming, because it is honestly Billy and Chad that are helping. I mean, how many people have you? I mean, obviously, you've had so many people go through Wealth Builders. I'm going to say thousands. I wanted to say thousands. I just want to make sure. I mean, could be more than that. But I also want to mention, too, not only should you go get this Financial Survival Guide, and again, don't come at me in the comments and say, well, I don't have any money, this and that. We asked Chad and Billy to build this specifically for people at every single level. So if you don't have money, they're going to show you how to make money. If you have a little bit of money and you want to figure out how to grow that, they're going to show you how to do that. And if you have, you've been blessed, God's blessed you, you've got wealth, you've got legacy money, then we're going to show you how to preserve that for the generations to come. That's what the entire guide's for. But I want to make sure, I just want to get it in there. If you want to go hang out with Chad and Billy and Karen in person, you guys have a conference coming up, right, Billy? It's going to be February 17th through the 19th. It's a Wealth Builders Conference, so they cover all these different types of topics you hear every single Friday, and it's in beautiful Denver.
It'll be in Denver in February. So a lot of people go skiing. They come up, they either stay some days before or days after, and they come to the Wealth Builder Conference, and then they drive up. And really the closest ski area is only about a little over an hour from where we're actually having the conference. So it's very close.
I feel the Lord's leading that I need to also go to that conference. That's what I'm feeling. I just heard the Lord speak to me when you said skiing. So
yeah, skiing. So, people in those warm states, they like to, like down in Texas, they like to come skiing. And so, yeah, there's a lot of that up here, and that'll be that. And by the way, that February the 17th through the 19th, that actually is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Awesome.
And so that is from Friday night going into the weekend, and we usually end early Sunday afternoon, usually about 1 o'clock.
Awesome. And I see you did something nice. They put it on the screen for me here to remind me. Y'all did something really nice for Lance's audience. You're giving $50 off either the in-person ticket or the live stream. So if you can't make it in person, jump on the live stream. But like Lance always says, there's power in proximity, and the anointing is there. There's something about being there in person.
Well, there's something about the networking because, there's a lot of my people love going to Cousins Conference. That's why we work together. I mean, I go there. It's like family reunion for me because a lot of my folks love what Billy does. So you want to go to meet people that you can do this together with because you're believers and you're sharpening each other's. They go to real estate, you go to stock, you compare notes about what you're learning.
I just remembered for the podcast people, because they can't see the screen, you want to go to wealthbuilders.org/events and use the code LANCE at checkout to get the $50 off.
Yeah, all of our podcasters, wealthbuilders.org/events. And remember, the code is Lance, and that gets you $50 off.
All right. I just had to make sure we get in there because there's the podcasts are so limited in time and you just can't get to everything. So I want to make sure people hear about it. Anyways, Billy, back to forecasting. What do you think about car prices? Do you think car prices are coming down?
They are. And so what happened, there's a couple of reasons car prices are coming down. It is very similar to what has happened in real estate in that, because of COVID and because of the supply chain, we had a much lower supply, for example, of new cars, which then made used cars go crazy. I mean, there were many. Matter of fact, I sold an F-150 pickup that was only 3 years old, and I actually it was a lease truck.
Wow.
And I sold it because this is true. I put $20,000 in my pocket and I paid off the lease. For example, what was left, I paid it off and put 20 grand in my pocket. Now I'm going to tell you, that's absurd. That's crazy.
Totally.
Because what happened was the demand was so great. Now, because supply is starting to come back and interest rates are going up, then car prices, you're going to see, first of all, used cars are going to begin to come down again. And honestly, used cars can easily drop right now, probably 20 to 30% and even more, but 20 to 30% for sure. Well, and so we're going to see that happen in used cars. And honestly, any kind of hard asset, and even though cars are typically an asset, as we all know, that go down in value during this season that we've been in, just about any kind of hard asset at all has gone up tremendously in value because of demand. Exactly.
Well, I thought Carvana was like either bankrupt and they're about to liquidate all their inventory as well. So that also is about to hit the market in this whole car market. So if you've got a rental car and or not a rental car, but if you have a car, you're not driving all the time. I was thinking I have one in my garage. I should probably go sell now before it depreciates in value even more. So
yeah, especially if you want to sell, meaning if you're wanting to sell it. Absolutely.
Exactly. It's like the first car I got myself when I was like growing up, and I paid for it myself. So it's all paid off, but it's nostalgic and it's just sitting in the garage. And I'm like, I should sell this while it's valuable. Yeah, that's smart, actually, because, as long as there's demand, but that is going to come down. And I think one of the things that we need to understand is that we're still in a season right now where I think it's important to look at what we would call the traditional inflation protection assets, which, as you hear people say, and you hear me say all the time, precious metals. So we're talking, for example, gold and silver. We're also talking land. In fact, I think I mentioned this on another podcast, but it's still true right now. I would say the hottest two assets right now currently, and I have personal experience with both of these. One, I know someone that just sold an art collection in the was it eight-figure number they sold on an art collection, and then someone else that's selling a farm, a really nice farm in that 8 to almost 9-figure category. Wow. And so it's amazing to see the demand that's out there. And the reason is big money knows that they need to start looking for some alternative kind of assets. And because they're not making any more land, and because they don't have, there's not a whole lot of increase in this high-end fine art that's out there, that people are putting their money in those things, and they're doing it right now because of this inflationary environment that we're in addition to the rarity of those kind of assets being available. So good.
Well, I think there's something to be said for those folks that are really getting a handle on all of this, because as it happens especially if you're a person of faith, I've seen it happen with ministers. Their trust in God and their whole anticipation of preparation sometimes is not really worked out. And so they head towards that retirement age and they don't really have what they need to have. And so I just want to say something. It's never too late to get wisdom, and wisdom is profitable to direct. It'll show you how to multiply results by being able to, if the axe head is dull, you have to use more strength. But if it's sharp, you can take down a tree faster. And what I want to say is that Chad has talked to me this week. Annabelle and I were on the phone with him, and we're actually doing something which you guys will do for folks, which has to do with customizing a strategy at multiple levels. Because there's a tax strategy. Annabelle, she's hanging out with your cousin. She went out to your real estate workshop. She's really studying this stuff. She says, we're paying more taxes than we should be paying. Cousin says we're overpaying. It's going to take us time to fix it. I said, well, this is like, right. But this is like, that parable about the 5 virgins that are wise and the 5 that are foolish. The ones who were foolish were told, go buy oil. Everybody focuses on the wise virgins and the foolish virgins. I'm preoccupied with the guy that has all the oil that isn't even going to the party. So here I am dispensing revelation, knowledge, and wealth. I got businesses, wealthy people. Everyone's coming to me all the time, thanking me for what I've done. And I'm going, wait a second. My wife's telling me, why are we paying all this money in taxes? Well, because I got to evidently as a faith man, I got to do some homework on this stuff, and it's all part of what God's got. I'm telling this to people out there because you all need to have a financial dashboard. So I asked Chad, I said, so, what do you want on that? Annabelle goes, you want to know about life insurance? He goes, he said, Billy will want to see everything. And so that was what he said. I thought it was interesting. He said, when it comes to looking at giving advice, he wants to see every category. So he said, even if you got money that's invested in a business over here or a stock over here or timeshares over here, put it all on the dashboard. And I'll tell you what, I'm saying that because there's people out there listening to me right now. You are no different than me, and you need to have a financial storm-proof dashboard. And when emotions are flying and news cycles are crazy, you don't want to fly by the seat of your pants or by emotion. You want to be instrument rated like a pilot, and the pilot goes by the instrument panel, not by what he's feeling. You could feel like you're upside down and you're not. You got to go by the instrument panel. I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/invest or stormproof. And I want you to download the guide, and let's build together as a community a dashboard that'll help us navigate through the coming storm. Make sense, cousin?
Yeah. Well, I want you to know I'm meeting with Chad on Thursday to talk about your stuff. I just found that out today. So I got an email that said, hey, we're going to talk about cousin. I said, okay, great.
Well, it's Annabelle, basically. It's like, the woman, God made that woman, so now she's got my feet to the fire on everything. Cousin says, from tax to, she's even got me invested in a house because she's saying that's the tax strategy, making me spend money. I said, I don't know if cousin said that, but I guess if that's what he says, I'm going to do it.
Well, it's a good long-term strategy. In fact, I think it's one of the absolute best. If you have to know what to do and you have to know how to get it in order to do that. But it's phenomenal what you can do, for example, with real estate as a tax strategy. So you have to be intentional. But once you get that in place, it's probably the best. But there's other strategies that you can take as well that, especially in your case, Lance, that will help protect a whole lot of things just because of what you have and how you're positioned with where you are. So I think, and we like to talk to people about that. As a matter of fact, I don't want to make specific references, but I just had someone who has a very significant business who came and talked to us, and we sat down with them and looked at all the things in their business, all of their other investments. And we came up with a strategy, and I got a call back from them later, says, man, even my CPA right now, was wondering how all this is happening, but man, he loves it. And so the truth is there's things we can do to help ourselves. And one of the things, Lance, let me just say this. We have people, and this, we have people that watch you and follow you and Mercedes as y'all are doing this podcast that are very, very high net worth people. And so we really specialize in helping those kind of folk. But also, I want to say you have people that are watching that follow you who are really, when it comes to the financial part of their life, they're very low, for example, on the totem pole. But we also have strategies to help them begin to be wiser and smarter. And you mentioned wisdom just a minute ago. And one of the things that we teach about wisdom is this. I call it the law of wisdom. Is that, remember, real wisdom begins with knowledge. And, you mentioned Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 10, that, a dull axe doesn't do very well, but you sharpen the blade and all of a sudden it starts getting a lot more effective. So no matter what level you are economically, we can show you through the law of wisdom how to sharpen the blade and begin to do the things right now that you need to do in order to take advantage of the times that we're in.
Amen.
I love that.
And to me, I think that that's the name of the game right now. I think the window that we're in is a preparedness window. And I do think, I mean, for me, this February event, I think that's a significant date, because like March, April, May, June, all of next year, I'm waiting for things to drop more in the stock market before I start investing. But I'm so excited to do all this. And the name of the game is to acquire knowledge, what we're talking about, right? Like the Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge.
And so
absolutely.
This is the time. Like right now is the season. And my concern is you can't keep putting it off. And I'm saying that to myself as much as I'm saying that to you. You cannot keep putting this off and think, well, I'll just come back to this video later. Well, I'll go download this guide later. Like right now, this season, between now and for me, March of next year is high preparedness time. And it's like ringing a bell. I'm just trying to get as many people awake as possible to say, these are the things you need to be looking at. The Fed raising rates, interest rates. I don't even think we've really touched interest rates. I'm going to be really interested to see if it continues to go up or come down, because I've heard a lot of different theories, but my point is, do not miss this boat. Don't miss the boat. Go get the financial guide and talk to Billy and Chad's team. Right now is the time.
We're going to do it. And I really feel the same urgency, which is why, Billy, we're putting more emphasis on this wealth builder strategy. I've been doing the podcast for like 2 years now, but now we're at the point where I think people have to do something. I heard a quote years ago I'll close with, and it is, when the opportunity of a lifetime presents itself to you, it is imperative that you respond within the lifetime of that opportunity. When a lifeboat goes by, you got to jump in the lifeboat before it leaves. And I really believe God has life strategies right here he wants to release to the body of Christ. Jesus said, when these things happen, remember I told you before they happen. Part of the prophetic counsel of God is the comfort that comes so that he lets us know ahead of time what's coming, so the wise man can see trouble and prepare himself. And so once a week, we spend a day focusing on this, because I don't want to be talking to you through the financial storm when you should be already with me preparing your boat. We're going to be back again tomorrow. But remember this, if you don't have it right now, lancewallnau.com/stormproof. And don't forget the Wealth Builders Conference in February 17th through 19th. You want to go to wealthbuilders.org/events. Use the promo code Lance. Get $50 off. Do the live stream if you're not one of those uppity skier types like Mercedes, but you just go ahead and watch it from home like me, where you're not going to be out there I'll be on the bunny slopes falling down anyway. So I'm going to watch it at home. God bless you. Thank you, cousin. We'll be looking forward to talking to you again shortly. Thank you, Mercedes. Absolutely. We'll see you all again tomorrow. Have a Merry, Merry Christmas Eve.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better